Right now, we have Adam Skaggs joining me, Chief Counsel and Vice President at the Giffords Law Center. Thank you for joining me from Los Angeles this evening, not far from Monterey Park. We appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate you having me on.
For anyone that doesn't know, quickly, can you tell us about the work being done at Giffords Law Center?
Sure. Giffords Law Center is the legal arm of the gun safety organization that's led by former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. Giffords Law Center was actually established, it'll be 30 years ago later this year, after a mass shooting at a San Francisco law firm. So our roots are in the Bay Area. And tragically, our origin story is not all that different from some of the tragedies that are still occurring today, although with increased frequency, unfortunately, in recent days.
Yeah, and we've had 3 mass shootings in California in 3 days in Monterey Park, Oakland, and Half Moon Bay. That's a big wake-up call when talking about gun violence in our country. And what stands out to me is that California has some of the strongest gun laws in the country. We know that. But in these cases, that didn't matter. We are not isolated. So can you speak on that? You know, we can do more and more and more here in California, but does it make a difference when we're talking about some of the federal laws that need to be put in place?
Well, it does make a difference. California, in the 30 years since Giffords Law Center was established, has made tremendous progress strengthening its laws, and it has reduced its rate of gun violence dramatically. Right now, the state of California, whether you're talking about gun homicides, gun suicides, or the types of mass shootings that we've seen in the last few days, the rate of these incidents in California is much lower than it is in the rest of the country. But there's still work to do, as this tragic violence makes incredibly clear. On the one hand, we need federal solutions to what is truly a nationwide problem. When other states that either share a border or perhaps are not too far from California have very lax gun laws that make it easy for guns to get into the hands of people intent on doing harm, no matter how strong California makes our laws, we're still going to be vulnerable to guns coming in from out of state. But again, I do want to underscore that while these incidents are absolutely horrific and more needs to be done and more will be done to try and reduce the frequency and prevent these kinds of tragic mass shootings, you know, California has made progress and it's the biggest state in the nation. Obviously, there are more people here than anywhere else. There's going to be a certain amount of gun violence, even with the strong laws that we've adopted. But it is a sign of progress that our gun suicide, our gun homicide, all of these rates are lower than the national average.
It is good to hear some positivity there that progress has been made, at least in California. But when you're talking about these recent mass shootings, it's just hard to imagine because we're looking at what happened in Half Moon Bay. Police say this was most likely a workplace dispute. The shooting in Monterey happened at a dance club, and we don't know a motive yet. And when it comes to these shootings, people like to categorize the people who commit them or where they happen. But you say there's one overlying issue. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I think, you know, folks are always looking for solutions. And if it's a workplace shooting or if it's a shooting motivated by a particular animus or you know, racism against a particular population, folks want to find solutions that sort of meet those fact patterns. But I think the point is gun violence in this country has become so prevalent that it affects every community. It's not just about a workplace shooting. You know, people are killed going grocery shopping, going to watch a movie in a movie theater, you know, kids going to school and seeing tragic shootings of students and teachers. You know, no community is insulated from this national problem. No group of people, you know, in particular communities are safe from gun violence, whether you're talking about suicides that make up about 2/3 of gun deaths in this country, mass shootings, which are so horrific, but are proportionately a small percentage of the people being murdered. You know, this is a problem that affects every American community, every American family. And if there are folks out there who are fortunate enough not to have been directly affected by gun violence, you know, the recent history has shown that with more guns in this country than people, those intent on doing harm are often going to find a way to arm themselves and commit that harm.
So sad just to hear you say that and that thought. But today, public officials and Governor Newsom, they spoke to families in Half Moon Bay. Governor Newsom said, we allowed this to happen and it doesn't have to be this way. What should he and local lawmakers do immediately after situations like this?
Well, I think, look, the immediate attention to how we can strengthen our laws, even in a state like California with very strong laws to begin with, is obviously critically important. And we stand by, we are eager to work with the governor, with the legislature to strengthen some of our already strong laws and to ensure that they are implemented properly. You know, there's a tool called a gun violence restraining order. It's often called a red flag or an extreme risk law, where somebody who's making threats or showing signs of being danger to themselves or others can be identified for a court, and a court can have a hearing and determine whether that person is too dangerous to have access to guns. So if you have somebody threatening coworkers in the workplace, we want to make sure that all the communities out there know that these tools are available and that they can avail themselves of these tools. So, you know, perhaps this sort of incident can be prevented. But in addition to strengthening our laws and strengthening awareness of how to use these laws effectively, I think right now there are families, there are survivors of these incidents, there are whole communities that are suffering just incredible trauma right now.
Right.
And I think Governor Newsom and others need to make sure the resources are there, the support is there for those survivors, those families, and those communities, because really now is the time they desperately need our support.
Yeah, and Adam, I know you have a lot of information on how people can support the work you're doing at Giffords Law Center on your website, so we'll send people there. But thank you again for your time. We appreciate it.